What's up, guys, and welcome into another edition, an SEC preview edition of the Rally Time podcast. I'm your host, once again, Justin Babin. Christian is back here producing the show, as always, during LSU baseball season. And this weekend, LSU starts SEC play with a home series in the box against Missouri. We're going to preview that series, preview what this Missouri team is looking like heading into Baton Rouge this weekend. We're going to kind of preview SEC, what it looks like for LSU as far as schedule and how the players are looking like and going into the first weekend of SEC play. But we're going to start today by going over the game from last night that LSU played, their midweek game from this week, which they played last night against the University of Xavier. LSU won the game via the run rule in 7 innings by a final score of 18-4.
I was hoping they were going to break like 40 in that game.
Yeah, it looked like it for a second.
Genuinely, they were on pace for like 36.
Yeah,
they had 18 in the 4th inning.
They had 17 runs after 3 innings in that game.
I got back from, I think I got back from like the gym or something, and I checked the score and it was like 4th inning, 18-2, and I'm like, all right. Damn, I'm not even going to watch it. I'm not even going to watch it. This is a rout.
They were locked in. Last night. They won the game 18-4. William Schmidt, the freshman out of Catholic High, started another midweek game for LSU. He only pitched 1 inning. It was the first inning. He pitched a scoreless first inning, giving up 1 hit, and he struck out 1 batter. Probably wanted to save him for a spot over the weekend to see if they need him in a type of long relief role at some point this weekend against Missouri. They wanted him to be available. So they didn't want to use him that much last night. And, you know, it'll be interesting to see how Schmidt handles SEC hitters now that, you know, we're getting into conference play, because he only has pitched a couple midweek games, and then besides that, the only weekend action he's seen was opening weekend when he pitched 2 innings, I believe, on opening weekend on Sunday against Purdue Fort Wayne, and he hasn't really faced, you know, big competition yet, so it'll be interesting to see how he handles it when he sees his first SEC action. As far as the offense, again, it started out hot. They were on point all night. LSU scored 7 runs in the first inning. Derek Curiel, again, great leadoff batter. I mean, we talked about it last episode about how he raised his on base percentage above 600 last night. So the kid's just been balling out. He led off the game in the bottom of the first with a double, and then Jared Jones and Daniel Dickinson hit back-to-back bombs to make it 3-0 just like that. It was the 7th homer of the season for Jared Jones, which he still holds the team lead in terms of home runs for LSU. It was the 6th homer of the year for Daniel Dickinson. 3 straight games now with a home run for Jared Jones. We talked about it a little bit last episode as far as his bat heating up as far as the home run ball. There were like the first 2 weeks, I think he only had 2 home runs. And I think in the last week, dating back to North Dakota State, he's got like 5 homers in like 6 games or something. So his bat is definitely heating up with 3 straight games with a home run for Jared Jones. Later in the first, Jake Brown hit an RBI single. There was a ground out by Luis Hernandez that led to a double play, but a runner scored from third in the process. Chris Stanfield hit an RBI single in the first after Tanner Reeves hit a double. And then Curiel came up again to the plate and hit an RBI double in the first that he tried to stretch into a triple, but unfortunately he was thrown out on the play at third to end the inning. So LSU scored 7 runs in total in the first inning, and then they scored 3 more runs in the second inning off of 2 run-scoring singles from both Jake Brown and Luis Hernandez. So it was 10-0 LSU after 2 innings. And after 2 innings, all of the LSU batters had reached base at least once in the game after just 2 innings. So that was a little stat that I heard that just kind of shows you how on point they were in the first couple innings in that game. Put up another 7 spot, scored 7 more runs in the third after Josh Pearson was hit by a pitch with the bases loaded and Stephen Milam was walked with the bases loaded. Jake Brown hit another single, his third single of the game, for another RBI. And then Tanner Reeves hit a grand slam for his second homer of the year. Tanner Reeves' bat has been really hot. He's been batting .333. He's gotten more outings at third base. Him and Michael Braswell, we talked about it a little bit. Kind of a third base position battle for who's the real starter. Gonna kind of like platoon between the two. And Jay Johnson said that he was fine with that, at least for now. But Tanner Reeves has been excellent lately. He's been really good, swinging the bat really well, and it continued when he hit that grand slam in the bottom of the third, and it was 17-0 after 3 innings for LSU. The Tigers scored one more run in the fourth as well. Jaden Newt came in for Schmidt in the second inning. Jaden Newt pitched both the second and the third. He pitched 2 scoreless innings, did not allow a hit. He walked 2 batters, and he recorded 4 strikeouts. Connor Ware, a little bit concerned with him. He came in to pitch the 4th inning, and, he struggled for the second straight game. He started out the season pretty well, but in the last 2 games, last week against North Dakota State and last night against Xavier, Connor Ware's struggled somewhat as far as command. He only finished pitching 2/3 of an inning. He gave up 2 earned runs on 3 hits, 1 walk, 1 wild pitch, and 2 strikeouts, excuse me, not 3, because he only pitched 2/3 of an inning. We talked about it last episode, how it was kind of like, okay, you can have 1 bad game, but that's 2 straight bad games shaky games, from Connor Ware. So something to keep an eye on, even though he was pitching pretty well in his first couple appearances for LSU this season. Maverick Rizzi came in for Ware with 2 outs in the fourth. Rizzi pitched 1 1/3 scoreless innings, did not give up a hit, and he walked 1 batter. Nichols transfer Jacob Myers pitched a scoreless 6th inning with 2 walks, and he struck out the side with 3 strikeouts in between those 2 walks. Guy we've talked about as kind of being the MVP so far for LSU this season in terms of relief outings. Kason Evans closed the game out in the 7th, but, he gave up his first 2 runs of the season on 2 hits, 1 walk, and 3 Ks. Not something you necessarily want to see, his first shaky outing going into the first weekend of SEC play, but Kason Evans has been dominant all season. He hadn't allowed a run in about 4 or 5 appearances before the game last night. So, again, sometimes as a pitcher, you go out and you don't have it, and that's okay. It happens to every pitcher. I've seen all kinds of pitchers it's happened to, and that kind of happened to Evans last night, but hopefully he bounces back because he'll definitely play a role in the series this weekend. Just going back to the bats, stat lines from the game last night. Curiel once again had a great game, 3 hits, 2 doubles for Derek Curiel and an RBI. Jared Jones also had 3 hits, including that home run he hit in the first, and he had 2 RBIs on that 2-run home run in the first. Daniel Dickinson hit that solo homer after Jones, so Daniel Dickinson added to his homer total. He has hit 6 homers on the season for LSU. Jake Brown had 3 hits and 3 RBIs. Tanner Reeves had 2 hits and 4 RBIs that came on that grand slam in the third. So the bats were completely locked in last night. I mean, 17 runs in the first 3 innings is, I know it's Xavier, but, LSU hasn't done that this season. So, and you don't see that a lot. So, they've been locked in, just the past 2 weeks. I mean, we talked about it last episode if you were here for it. The bats have just been so good, and they've been clicking. And it's good to see going into LSU play. I mean, going into
SEC play.
SEC
We're past
play.
LSU play.
It's good to see going into SEC
The purple and gold scrimmage happened a long time ago.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad. I went to a few of those scrimmages, and they were fine.
Prepared you for the season.
Actual baseball is much better
yeah.
you see them go out against an opposing team.
SEC
instead
baseball
of playing
feels much
themselves.
different.
Yes,
I mean,
it does.
they can play Dallas Baptist on a weeknight, and it feels kind of cool. But SEC baseball feels different for sure.
After recapping that game, like we said, we're going to kind of go into, as far as stats, what it looks like, how recapping, where's LSU at? Where are these players at heading into SEC play? So after Tuesday, LSU is first in the SEC in terms of batting average with a 346 team batting average. So they're first overall in the SEC in terms of batting average. They are 7th in the SEC with a 3.016 ERA. Derek Curiel leads the team in batting average with a 450 batting average for the freshman. 7 doubles, 1 triple, and 1 homer. 16 RBIs on the season for Curiel.
I'd expect that home run number to increase as the season goes on too.
Yeah, you hope so. We get, it's the thing is he hasn't faced SEC pitching yet, and I've seen freshmen who have dominated against non-conference opponents, weaker non-conference opponents, and then come out and it's a bit of an adjustment facing SEC pitching.
I agree, but I feel like it'll be a similar track as to what Milam did last year, where he did start out strong like this, but his home runs didn't come later in the season. I totally agree. 450 is a little bit unrealistic. He'll definitely drop off. I mean, probably low 300s if I had to guess. The home run number will come because I think it's like Milam. We saw Milam get that pop last year, so I think it'll be similar to Milam.
Mm-hmm. Curiel also leads the team with a 602 on-base percentage after last night. So raised that on-base percentage even more. So Curiel has just been absolute dynamite in the first month of his college career. Jared Jones is also batting 448. He leads the team with 7 homers along with 8 doubles and leads the team in RBIs as well with 28. Jake Brown and Steven Milam are both batting .391. Both Brown and Milam have 4 doubles. Brown has 11 RBIs. Milam has 4 home runs, a triple, and 20 RBIs. So it's not just Curiel and Jones and Dickinson, which we'll get to in a little bit. It's also Milam's been really, smashing the ball lately. Jake Brown's been really good as well. Josh Pearson's been coming along nicely. So the bats have just been clicking, especially in the past few weeks. It's good to see heading into SEC play. Daniel Dickinson is batting .373 with 6 home runs, 4 doubles, and 26 RBIs. And then the last guy we'll kind of go through as far as hitting-wise for LSU, Josh Pearson is batting .351 with 2 homers that both came in the North Alabama series this past weekend, 5 doubles, and 16 RBIs. So, all in all, the bats have just been on point. They've been dynamite, on fire the last 10, 12 games. At one point, they had a 5-game streak of scoring double-digit runs. They scored 18 more last night. And it'll be interesting to see as they face tougher pitching going into SEC play how that works out. Going to the mound, going over LSU's 3 starters, Cade Anderson on the season has a 3-0 record with a 2.08 ERA and 21 2/3 innings of work with 37 strikeouts and 6 walks. The strikeout total of 37 for Anderson is tied for 4th in the SEC overall. So, again, strikeout machine. It's what Cade Anderson has always been. He's coming off Friday where he had 11 more strikeouts. It just seems like every game he's going to get at least 8. And like double-digit strikeouts at this point for Cade Anderson has kind of become sort of a common occurrence for him because of how good he is and how good he's been in his freshman season last year and start the first month of his sophomore campaign this year as well. Anthony Ianson is also 3-0 like Anderson. He has a 3.00 ERA and 24 innings with 35 strikeouts and 5 walks. Ianson had that 15 strikeout dominating performance against North Alabama on Saturday. The slider for Ianson is filthy, and he's coming along nicely. And like I said, I have total confidence in Anthony Ianson and Cade Anderson. And also, Chase Shores, who's allowed more hits, but Chase Shores actually has a 4-0 record with a 3.15 ERA in 20 innings with 22 strikeouts and 7 walks. So look, we talked about it. Chase Shores has allowed a few more hits than, I believe, 6 more hits than Ianson. I believe he's allowed 22 hits on the season. So he's allowed a few more hits and gotten hit off of a few more times than Ianson and Anderson have, but he still has an undefeated record, perfect record of 4-0, and he's still been solid and clutch in certain situations, getting out of tough innings and tough jams, which is good to see because you're not always going to be perfect, especially in SEC play. So when there are runners on base, when it's bases loaded, when there are 2 runners on base, and you're in a close game, how are you going to be able to get out of that? And Shores against, yes, lesser competition, but Shores has been able to get out of that time and time again in the first month of baseball for LSU this season. 3 arms, I kind of want to highlight a couple arms out of the bullpen for LSU. Again, Kason Evans has been great in 10 innings of work this season. He has a .90 ERA with 19 Ks and 3 walks. Zach Cowan has also been really good with a 1.23 ERA and 14 2/3 innings with 19 Ks and 2 walks as well. William Schmidt, talked about it before, 3-0 record on the season. It'll be interesting to see. He's going to, of course, not be a weekend starter. Going to take on a long reliever role, I believe, be a good relief pitcher, but really excited to see William Schmidt, highly touted freshman out of Catholic High, face tough competition because he's got the stuff. He has a 1.35 ERA, 13 1/3 innings, 16 Ks, 3 walks. Anderson, Ianson, and Shores are your rotation starting wise, and I am fully confident with that, especially Ianson and Anderson. And I believe that having Shores as a Sunday guy gives LSU an advantage over a lot of teams in the SEC. As far as Chase Shores is most likely, in my opinion, one of the best starting options you can have on a Sunday after you get rid of your first 2 options on Friday and Saturday. I believe Chase Shores being able to pitch on Sunday and start on Sunday gives LSU an advantage, where last season LSU brought a disadvantage into Sunday in terms of the starting role because they didn't really have a third starter outside of Gage Jump and Luke Holman. That's not a problem. I believe it's an advantage this year for LSU to have Shores in that Sunday role, an advantage over other SEC teams. I believe your leaders, as far as on the mound relief-wise, Kason Evans, Zach Cowan, William Schmidt. Interesting, we talked about it the other day when Gavin Guidry, whenever he comes back, it'll be interesting to see how Guidry kind of acclimates himself this season as well. I would like to also say, there are a few LSU players who have not allowed a run so far this season. Cooper Williams has not allowed a run in 4 2/3 innings of work, and Jacob Myers has not allowed a run in 4 innings of work. So you could also see Williams and Myers, who have been good so far this season, although less innings than the other guys that we've talked about. They still haven't allowed a run in 4 innings, so they've still been good. But yeah, going into SEC play, I feel this team is in a right spot. They're locked in, they're confident, they got swag, they're on a roll, and I believe heading into this series against Missouri, they're just going to carry that momentum into this series, hopefully for LSU fans. And yeah, I just feel they're in a really good spot heading into this weekend. Now, let's get into our preview of this Missouri team and what they look like heading into Baton Rouge this weekend. So Missouri has a record of 8-8 on the season, which is the worst record in the SEC heading into conference play. Yeah,
it's real bad.
It's not good. It's not great heading into
let's not talk too early though.
Play. But I'm not going to that's
fall
the
for it.
scary thing.
Don't fall for it. Don't
That's
fall
the
for it.
scary thing. When we talk about this Missouri team and preview them, yes, they're 8-8, worst record in the SEC heading into conference play. But I don't want to downplay it. They're an SEC team. And look, they still have some guys who we'll talk about who have been pretty good, on the mound and hitting wise. They're definitely not, top of the conference by any means, but you want to respect them. You want to respect them for sure. So make sure to be careful going into this weekend. It's SEC play is not going to be a walk in the park. It never is, But yeah, they're 8-8. Heading into the season, again, they were projected to finish last in the SEC by D1 baseball in the preseason. But again, just don't come into this series, and I know LSU knows this better than anyone, disrespecting Missouri because they're coming into the box hungry. And, they started 8-8 in non-conference play, but it's a clean slate. The record is 0-0 for everybody in SEC play. And, anything can happen, especially in the sport of baseball. I've seen it before. The last 2 weekends for Missouri, they split 2 4-game series against the University of Evansville and Binghamton last weekend. Team overall, they are ranked 11th overall in the SEC in team batting average with a .301 average coming into this weekend. 17 home runs on the season for Missouri, 119 runs scored. Some top hitters, I got a few stats on a couple of the top hitters for Missouri. Caden Nicoletto is leading the team in batting average with a .422 batting average with 2 home runs, 3 doubles, and 10 RBIs for Caden Nicoletto. So pay attention to him. In addition to Nicoletto, Jackson Lovich is batting .328 and Mateo Cerna is batting .323. Lovich has 2 doubles, 2 homers, and 10 RBIs, while Mateo Cerna has 4 doubles, 3 homers, and 19 RBIs. Also pay attention to Brady Piccarelli as well, who is batting .379 with 2 doubles, 3 homers, and 14 RBIs. Although, oddly, Piccarelli has had fewer at-bats than the other 3 that we've talked about in Mateo Cerna, Jackson Lovich, and Caden Nicoletto. So those are kind of 4 bats that have been pretty solid for Mizzou. Shifting to the mound, Missouri is dead last in ERA and team ERA with a 6.20 ERA as a team heading into this weekend. Dead last in the SEC. Both lefties, Caden Drew and Ian Losey, I believe that's how you pronounce it. We kind of talked about that pre-show. But both lefties, Caden Drew and Ian Losey, have made 4 starts for Mizzou. Caden Drew has a 2-0 record with a 3.43 ERA in 21 innings, 15 strikeouts, and 7 walks. Drew has a mid-80s fastball with a low 70s slider and a changeup in the low to mid-70s as well. So
where'd you find your information?
I'm
curious.
3-pitch mix for Drew.
I'm curious. Where'd you get your information?
D1 Baseball. D1 Baseball.
So they did a breakdown of the entire Missouri roster.
D1 Baseball did kind of a breakdown of Missouri because, folks, there's not a lot of highlights of Missouri online. There's just not. But D1 Baseball kind of did their preseason breakdown of all 16 SEC teams. They did reports leading into the season. So
I was just curious.
I did get some of this from them.
Yeah, for as bad as an SEC baseball team as they are, I'm almost a bit surprised that their breakdown was this detailed about the team. I'm sure you have more information, but yeah, I'm just a bit surprised.
Yeah. Ian Losey, the other left-hander, has a 0-2 record, 5.12 ERA, 19 1/3 innings, 26 strikeouts, 4 walks. Losey actually has 5 pitches compared to Drew's 3. Fastball that actually gets up to 95, high 80s cutter, a slider, a curveball, and a changeup to go along with that. 95-mile-an-hour fastball. As far as I know, he throws the most heat on the team, does Ian Losey, the lefty for Missouri. Another starter is lefty Will Libert, who has made 3 starts on the season with a record of 1-1, 5.4 ERA, and 13 1/3 innings of work, 12 strikeouts, 9 walks. Libert has a fastball between 89 and 92, touches 93 at some times, also has a changeup and a slider. So what stands out to me about the 3 starters that we're paying attention to from Missouri is they're all lefties. They're all lefties. And LSU hasn't faced a ton of lefties so far this season. You know, they faced a lot more righties. I will say last weekend they faced North Alabama starter Trip Patterson and scored 4 earned runs, 5 runs in total off of him last Saturday. But that's a little bit interesting, you know, facing 3 starting lefties. It'll be interesting to see what Jay Johnson does with the lineup in terms of, I look at it like this, you know, third base as far as Tanner Reeves and Michael Braswell. Tanner Reeves has the much better, much higher batting average, hitting .333 compared to Braswell's .182, but Reeves bats left-handed and Braswell bats right-handed, so it'll be interesting to see if Braswell maybe gets some more opportunities, because yes, Braswell has started a little bit shaky and not great entering SEC play, but Braswell is a senior. He has plenty of experience from his 2 seasons at South Carolina and his season last year, where if you remember last year, Braswell kind of started a little bit slow, but as we went into SEC play and got deeper and deeper into it, Braswell started to step it up to the point to where he was one of LSU's best hitters come postseason play last season. So I'll be interested in seeing, even though Reeves has been better in non-conference play than Braswell, to see if Braswell gets a few more opportunities because of the matchup with 3 lefties on the mound for Missouri.
No doubt.
As far as some relievers, a few relievers I got highlighted as terms of stats for Mizzou. Righty Ben Smith from Mizzou has made 8 appearances with a 2.89 ERA, 9 1/3 innings of work, 14 strikeouts, 1 walk. Shows a fastball between 86 and 89. Plays up beyond its velocity at some point. Has a nice low 80 slider as well from Ben Smith. PJ Green is another righty who has the lowest ERA on the team at 1.23 and 7 1/3 innings of work with 3 strikeouts and 3 walks. You know, he can get it up to 93, but it mostly sits at 89 and 91 for PJ Green in terms of his fastball. Also has a slider as well that's pretty good. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see in terms of mound-wise how LSU handles having 3 lefties start for Missouri, and Drew, Losey, and Libert. Projected-wise, you know, starting-wise for Missouri, to see how LSU handles that competition. If you'll see, you know, Michael Braswell get some more playing time. You know, Ethan Fry's also a righty who has shown some good at-bats at times this season, so I expect Fry to maybe get a few more options this weekend against those lefties on the mound. So yeah, I mean, this Missouri team has not been great so far this season, right? But it's SEC play, and they have a couple of guys who you know may pose some challenges as far as, you know, pitching-wise, especially with, you know, Losey getting up into the 95-mile-an-hour range for his fastball. Trip Patterson, who we just talked about before from North Alabama, only got into the mid-80s in terms of his fastball last weekend. Trip Patterson, the lefty for North Alabama. So it's something LSU hasn't seen a ton this season. But, like, they have the batters. We talked about it before. They've been on point. And I'm sure going into SEC play that they are prepared to see those lefties heading into opening weekend against Missouri. You know, kind of also want to run down just real quick the whole, besides this opening weekend against Missouri, the whole SEC preview for LSU. We're not going to break down, you know, all of these teams. We'll kind of go week by week in terms of how these teams look like. Missouri is, you know, definitely not the there's not a ton of film on Missouri as there is compared to, they play Texas next week. LSU does at Texas, which is their first real huge big test. Texas is number 11 in the country, so there's a lot more film and a lot more video on Texas. So we'll have kind of a deep dive on them next weekend. But kind of running through going into this weekend, the SEC has 12 teams in the top 25 according to D1 Baseball. And heading into this weekend, one team in the SEC, that is Tennessee, the defending national champions. Tennessee is still undefeated. 7 SEC teams have only 1 loss, and only 3 of the 16 teams in the SEC have 4 or more losses on the season. So the thing is, for LSU, who only has 1 loss on the season and who has looked so good, the thing is a lot of SEC teams have looked really good, right? That's the thing that's scary, is like non-conferences. It's great to see, especially how LSU has performed the past few weekends. But, this is where the big boys play. This is where the most major leaguers come out of the SEC. The SEC has won, I don't know how many straight national championships the SEC has won. I believe like 4 or 5 straight natties have come out of the SEC.
Since Oregon State, I think.
Yeah, since Oregon State in 2018, the SEC has won every single national championship. And it's not like any teams have repeated. It's like Ole Miss and Mississippi State, or Mississippi State won a natty, and then Ole Miss won a natty the season after that.
I think Vandy won one after Oregon State as well.
Exactly. And Ole Miss, the season after they won a natty, didn't even make it into the SEC tournament.
Almost
Mississippi
like LSU.
State didn't even make it to the SEC tournament after.
Almost like LSU.
Yeah, LSU almost didn't make it last year. They started out 3-12 in SEC play last year. So, yeah, they were definitely one of those teams who could have. Now, they turned it around. They figured it out and became one of the top 20 teams in the whole entire country going into postseason play. But they figured it out eventually. But, yeah, the SEC is just loaded. It's stacked. Any SEC schedule is a gauntlet. So, let's kind of run through the schedule here. So we talked about it. So after Missouri this weekend, LSU plays at number 11, Texas. LSU's first really tough test in a true road environment. LSU, the road games they played in Texas, they played 4 games in Texas a few weeks ago in Arlington and Frisco, were neutral site games. So LSU has not played a true road test yet, and their first true road test is going to be 3 games against the number 11 team in the country next weekend in Austin against the Texas Longhorns, who have looked really good so far this season. After Texas, LSU is home against Mississippi State, who is 4th in team batting average in the SEC and 5th in team ERA. So Mississippi State, even though they're not ranked, they're not a bad team. They've looked pretty good. They only have like a couple losses on their record. After Mississippi State, it's at number 12, Oklahoma. Oklahoma has been really good, especially Kyson Witherspoon, who's their ace. He's 2nd in the league in strikeouts with 40 strikeouts.
Who's first
on the season? I think Tennessee has... Their ace has 47 strikeouts on the season. So, Oklahoma's been pretty good. So, and then after Oklahoma, it's at number 25, Auburn, home against Alabama, home against number 2, Tennessee, who Tennessee leads the country with 50 home runs on the season as a team, which is crazy. With conference play not even starting yet, they're the defending national champions. Number 19, Texas A&M, who is shockingly dead last in terms of batting average in the SEC team batting average. They lost, I believe in the second weekend, they lost their best hitter on the season in Gavin Grahovac at the plate, and they have just not been able to figure it out, at least so far. And they were supposed to be the best team in the country, projections-wise, going into this season. Number 3, Arkansas as well, and then they finished the season at South Carolina versus a South Carolina team that is led by Paul Maneri. So just kind of closing out here is like, as far as schedule-wise, LSU, I feel like the back half of their schedule is the real tough test with that Alabama team, and then that 3 straight weekends against Tennessee in their 7th series in the SEC. LSU plays home against number 2 Tennessee, who's the defending national champions, and then they go on the road to Bluebell Park the weekend after that against Texas A&M, who has looked, shaky to start the season, but they were ranked number 1 in the season, in the preseason because they have talent. And, it's 8 weeks till you play Texas A&M, and they could figure it out by then. I'm not saying they will, but they could. And it's always tough to win games in rowdy environment in Texas A&M for sure. And then the weekend after that, they host number 3 Arkansas as well. So, it's a gauntlet. You face the number 12 team in the country, the number 25 team, the number 19 team, the number 2 team, the number 3 team. You face all of these teams in conference play, so it's going to be a grind. And as far as this weekend, I caution myself in saying this. It would be nice to get a sweep against Missouri before that Texas series against Texas and Arlington, because you don't know. Texas is a really good team. Jim Schlossnagle, the former coach at Texas A&M, had A&M in the national championship series against Tennessee last season, and now he's at Texas. So that Texas series is going to be one where we're going to talk about that a lot next weekend and have a deeper dive for you, because that Texas team is really good, and that's going to be LSU's first really tough test. So it would be nice to get a sweep. You have to win the series, like absolutely against Missouri. But it would be, anytime you take 2 out of 3 in the SEC, you're going to be happy. So if LSU drops 1 against Missouri, I'm not going to come in here for our next show depressed. But with what this LSU team has down the road, it would definitely be nice. And LSU has the potential to get an early season sweep and start 3-0 in the 30-game grind of SEC play. Last thing is, this LSU team has looked so good in the first month, but this is where it starts. Like, this is where the season starts. This is where the gauntlet of SEC play starts. I've seen, I saw a stat the other day that the last 3, before the season, the last 3 LSU baseball teams have started conference play with only 1 loss in non-conference play. And one of those teams was a national champion. But the team last year started with 1 loss. And then they started 3-12 in SEC conference play because they faced 4 top 10 teams in the first 5 weeks. Last year, LSU's schedule was brutal. I think they played Florida, Vanderbilt, Arkansas, and Tennessee in the first 5 weeks of SEC play, which it's a plus that you don't have that, and that you start with a Missouri team who hasn't looked great so far, but they're an SEC school, and nobody's done anything in SEC play yet, and that's where it counts. So going into this weekend, it's going to be interesting to see how the Tigers perform, and especially as we go down the stretch. But really excited for the start of SEC play and what it's going to look like. Again, the games against Missouri, LSU plays Friday at 6:30 against Missouri, Saturday at 6, and Sunday at 1. Looking forward to it. Really excited for what's to come in this season for LSU as the real baseball starts now. Really, really excited to bring this kind of preview to you guys, let you guys know a little bit about what's going on in the SEC as LSU heads into conference play this weekend. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm excited to bring this content to you guys as always. We appreciate you tuning in. Christian and myself were really excited to come at you with another episode. Appreciate all the love and support that I've heard. A lot of positive feedback. Really appreciate it. And we hope y'all enjoy the first weekend. Maybe try to get out to the box this weekend.
Do it.
And watch the Tigers play.
I'll be there Friday.
Yeah,
You'll be there 3 days?
I'll be there. I plan to be there all 3 days.
Unfortunately, I'm riding in a St. Patrick's Day parade on Sunday, so I will not be able to be at the box on Sunday. But Saturday and Friday, I do plan on being there, so I'm excited. First SEC series is always fun.
Yeah, first SEC series. I expect the box to be packed this weekend. So anyway, thank y'all for tuning in. Like, share, comment,
subscribe. Tell your friends about the show. Turn on the bell so you know when we're live in the morning, and turn on the bell so you know when Rally Time gets published twice a week.
All right, guys.
Peace.
Y'all have a good one. Peace.